Jeff up in the big game hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I take questions live from people or respond to questions I receive from people during the week, and they all relate to job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, dealing with a career transition, workplace issues, things along those lines. Because what I do professionally is people hire me for no BS career advice. And as such, I try to help people holistically with their career from a job search through onboarding for years. So if you've got a question for me about any of this, please feel free to put it into chat today. I'd be very happy to answer your questions. I'll also mention you can follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn. TJ, glad to see you stop by. It's been a while. Good to see you. You can connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the big game hunter. And by the way, TJ, if you've got a question for me before you jump off, I'll take it first. So feel free to put it into chat. So again, if you've got want to connect with me or follow me, you can do that at linkedin.com/IN/the big game hunter. I coach people. I help people professionally. And I'm going to encourage you. Thank you. TJ's been on before and he's got nothing going on that he needs help with. That's fine. So my website at thebiggamehunter.us is a place where you can schedule a free discovery call with me to get to know me and find out whether you think you would feel comfortable hiring me for coaching. What you can do there is also, I'm having a brain cramp there. Schedule a coaching session with me. Visit my blog, which has more than 12,000. Yes, you read that correctly. 12,000 searchable posts that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you in these different categories. In addition, sorry, something popped up on my screen. In addition, what you can do is subscribe to my channel on YouTube at JobSearchTV.com. And it's also available as an app on Amazon. So if you have a Fire TV or a Fire Stick, you can watch me on your set or on bingenetworks.tv, which streams to 300 some odd services. So you can watch me there. In addition, my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, is #1 in Apple Podcasts for job search. A week from Monday, we're going to hit episode 2,500. And in November, we're also going to be hitting our 12th anniversary of the show. This is, as someone called it so eloquently, the OG of the job search podcast space. So subscribe to JobSearchTV.com or listen to the podcast. It's different content. So if you've got a question for me, you can put it into chat. Subscribe. There's a lot of great stuff you'll hear from me, in the podcast or on the YouTube channel. Okay. Now, I received a number of questions for me, but my practice is if someone puts a question into chat, they cut the line and get to the front of all the others that I've received. So again, I hope to see you put questions in. Okay. So this was a fun first question. If an employer says they've already hired someone else and never calls back after repeated attempts at contact, what should the job seeker do? The answer is they don't want to talk to you. It's really very clear. They don't want to talk to you. They communicated their decision. They chose someone else. They don't see a reason why they should tell you anything more than that. And yes, I know you'd like to find out what it was about that person that made them choose them. Maybe you could email this person, say, I'm sorry if I've come across as a pest. All I'm trying to do is learn from you. By the way, you can email them, text them if you have their mobile number, or message them on LinkedIn and say, "I'm sorry, if I've come across like a pest. That isn't my intention. I'm curious. I want to learn from this experience. What was it about that person that made them stronger than me, that caused you to choose me?" That's as much as you can try. So give up the phone calls. They don't want to talk to you. Try a different way. Maybe you can get the information that you need by approaching it differently than you have before. Oh, I like this one. Should you trust a recruiter with your resume? Hmm. So let's look at the situations. You're actively looking for a job and they need a resume. Send it to them. You're not actively looking for a job. They've called you with something interesting and they want to submit your resume to their client. You can make it very clear to them, "I'm only interested in this role or this type of a role. I'm giving you my resume. Please do not send it anywhere without my consent." And usually they will comply, because if they don't, you don't have to go on that interview, right? So that messes them up with the company that they submitted you to. The third situation is that they did cold call recruiting and they said, "Jeff, we're doing a search for a client and your background looked interesting. I want to have a chance to talk with you. By any chance, would you happen to have a resume I could see a copy of?" Let's chat first. Let me see about the role, because I just don't want my resume floating around to the Western Hemisphere. If it's something interesting, yeah, I'd be happy to send you a resume, but let's talk first. And that becomes the way that you deflect their request for a resume until you're ready to be submitted for a role. So, can you trust them? Well, let's start off with, what are they going to do with it that could be a problem? And usually it's submitting it as though they're sending it to the Western Hemisphere. They're not going to really do that because there's nothing in it for them unless they get your clearance. So I think you can, but if you're uncomfortable, you just simply say, "This is what my background is. Tell me about the job you're recruiting for." "Nope, not interested in that. Don't see a reason to send my resume." "Yep, I'm interested. Need my resume?" "Sure, but only send it to this. And if you've got something else, then message me about it. Let's talk." Don't just give them a carte blanche with sending it. Next question is, what do recruiters think about candidates who aren't looking for new positions, but will engage with the recruiter and use the new position as a bargaining tactic to negotiate the raise with their current companies? Um, the key phrase in here is engage with the recruiter and use the new position as a bargaining tactic. Is it only on the basis of a phone call? Or are you going on interviews, getting offers, and then using it as leverage? I will tell you that if you ever did that to me when I did recruiting, I would hate your guts forever, because you would have hurt me, because you cost me a time and you cost me the fee. You hurt my client who invested time and had the expectation that you would join, and then you didn't. So they would hate you for that. And you would have wound up hurting someone along the way. Don't do this kind of crap. It's unfair. It's unnecessary. It isn't right. If you were hiring, you wouldn't want someone to do that to you. Don't do it to other people. So, Meet, how are you? How do I get a high-end salary as a software developer in India? I'm learning JavaScript and have about 4 years of experience in a mix of technologies. So, Sumit, this is as much as I know about you. And thus, I think there are people you can speak with in India who are more senior than you, who can give you a sense of what you need to know and what you need to have done in order to get that high-end salary as a software developer. Now, it always depends upon other variables. It's not just as simple as they're trying to hire a JavaScript person. Are you willing to travel? Are you willing to be relocated? If no, are you already in a city where those kind of jobs exist? Can you work remotely for some of those firms and be paid well? Usually not. But the long and the short of it is, if you're looking for something else now and you want to get something high end, uh, um, as a software developer, you've got 4 years. You probably need a couple more years of experience doing more stuff. And I'm not there and I don't really have much knowledge of your background except you're learning JavaScript and you have 4 years of experience in different technologies. I can't really discern what would be right for you, but I will say that there are other people who you probably know that can help answer that question specific to you and your experience. And that's really what you need, something specific to you and the kind of experiences that you have that will allow you to clean up your background. And by that, I mean strengthen it in some way so that in this way you're marketable as a senior developer, as a lead, and or as a developer lead that allows you to make more money and have more responsibility. I hope that helps you. And if you've got more, please feel free to put it in the chat. So, next question is, how do people know when they're ready to move on from a career? Well, I think the first thing to understand is when people start asking the question, it's time to explore moving on from a career. You're starting to think about something else. And as such, when people start to think that way, they prefer doing something else. They're just afraid. And thus, if you're in that situation where you're starting to think, what have you been thinking about doing next anyway? Are there people that you can chat with specifically who are doing that kind of work? So you have a sense of what it's really like doing that kind of job. Without that, it's all speculation, and you could be making the wrong choice, which you obviously don't want to do. So, to me, the first thing is to realize if you're asking yourself the question, you'd like to do something else. I don't know how to respond to this, so I'm just going to hide the message. Okay. Now, I've got more questions here. And again, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career transitions, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer your question. Also, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, to schedule time for a free discovery call or a coaching session. Find out about my courses, books, and guides. The blog has more than 12,000 searchable posts within it. There is a lot there that will help you. So again, that's thebiggamehunter.us. Now, let me come to the next question. So that question is, how can human resources departments stop the revolving door of new hires? I think the best way they can do that is to teach their managers how to interview, because most don't. They've been learning through trial and error. In doing that, they make mistakes. They misrepresent jobs to people. They do things that cause the turnover. They don't reveal the institutional friction that exists, and thus they disappoint the person who's going to be joining. As a result, When a manager lies about what someone can expect when they come on board, that causes people to want to leave, right? If the team isn't inviting to that individual when they join, that causes them to want to leave, right? So everything has to have a path laid out for the new hire so they can onboard, not just simply with human resources, but in the department as well. I'm also a very firm believer most hiring managers don't know how to evaluate. I'm representing someone now who's up for a job at a large technology firm. I'm going to keep the name out of it, that has a fairly standardized process. And in doing so, they're trying to eliminate bias from the equation. And also at the same time, because everyone's asked the same question, and at the same time, they want an individual to open up with their personality. Person has to have the knowledge, experience, and such, but also be reflective of the firm and their corporate values. So when hiring managers start interviewing, most of the time they wing it. And thus, everyone gets asked different questions and they wind up with lemons. If your firm's staff is turning over too often, there's a problem with the hiring and people are being disappointed. It has to be corrected or else the revolving door continues. Okay? Why do my job applications keep getting rejected? The facetious answer is because your background sucks, but it may not. What it is it's not making a case for why you're qualified to do the job that you're applying for. That's it in a nutshell. Your resume is not making a case that you're qualified to do the job. It may also be that your resume and LinkedIn profile are not congruent with one another. You're representing yourself one way in your resume, but your profile says something a little bit different that winds up casting doubt as to whether or not you have the qualifications to do the job at hand. So why is it being rejected? Because you're not making a case that you're qualified to do the work. It's really that simple. What are the chances of a recruiter not contacting you, even though you sent them your resume? Extremely high. It's extremely high that they're not going to contact you. Why do I say that? Simple. Most of you spam your resumes. You're not qualified in the positions. You'd like to do the job, but you're not qualified. You're interested. You'd want to do the job if it were offered to you at the right money. But the fact is, your resume doesn't demonstrate your qualifications for the job in a way that shows that you have adequate experience. That's really why you're being rejected. Okay. And let me just check something. Let's continue on. Okay. They asked me why I didn't join them after accepting their job offer. How should I respond? In other words, you took a counteroffer, and they want to know why. First of all, contact them this afternoon. Contact them this afternoon and say, I apologize. I was in a rush earlier. I received another offer. I wasn't out trying to get it, but it's an offer I really can't refuse. It's no reflection upon your firm or the work you asked me to do. Frankly, I'm not independently wealthy and I need to be paid well. And this firm just knocked it out of the park. I think an honest response serves you well. I would do it by phone rather than by email because email in this case is the coward's way. Don't develop cowardly skills or cowardly capabilities. Instead, be honest with them about where the other firm just excited you so much that you decided to turn down the original firm's offer. We continue on. What does it mean if an interviewer does not ask you the question, do you have any questions for me? Does it indicate that the interviewee, meaning the job hunter, is not selected for the job role? Not necessarily. All it means is that the interviewer may have been rushing. The interview may have gone long. They don't want to take the time. Maybe it is, that you didn't do a good job on the interviews and they're looking at other people. There's no way of knowing from your question as to whether or not they're interested in you and they just don't want to take the time right now, or they're not interested in you and they don't want to be rude. So the long and the short of it is, can't really tell from the question. There's just not a lot of information there. I'm going to do one more question today. And let's just see. If you are connected with someone on LinkedIn and you view their profile, so you're connected with them and you look at their profile, will they get to know that you viewed their profile? Now, the answer is possibly. And I say possibly because someone with a paid LinkedIn account can know if someone looked at their profile. On a free account, they can't. I'm not telling you, to downgrade your profile to an unpaid account. I'm saying that they can see your profile. They can tell they can know who viewed their profile if they have a paid account. Other than that, on the free accounts, I believe they could be notified of 3 people, but beyond that, no. So, yes, they can see who looked at it. Absolutely. So with that, I'm Jeff Altman. Hope you found today's show helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, share it, leave a comment, click the like button, do something that lets people know it was worthwhile. Also, connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw the show. I like knowing I'm helping people. Once we're connected, your network is going to grow a lot. In addition, visit thebiggamehunter.us to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session. Visit my blog with more than 12,000 searchable posts. Find out about my courses, books, and guides, including the Ultimate Job Interview Framework and the right answers to tough interview questions. I have a new book coming out very soon about organizing your job search with relevant information for our times now. Lastly, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. Download the app for an Amazon Fire Stick or a Fire TV. Watch me on BingeNetworks.tv, which is a streaming service that streams to more than 300 different sites. And you can watch my videos there and a lot of other good content. And subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where it's a video podcast, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. Folks, I'm going to take it easy this afternoon. Have a terrific weekend. Have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great.